Hello and welcome back. It was so nice I had to do it twice. Actually, I said something I wasn't supposed to say in the last video, and I didn't want no social media strikes, so I decided let me just not post that video. So let me do this again. Thankfully, I only just started. What are we talking about? Ruth and Boaz. We're doing a modern day take on Ruth and Boaz. We are walking through today if Ruth existed, as well as the combination of something I was looking at on television like last week, and how the two together make perfect sense as to all of the words that I've been hearing spiritually. I need you to follow me. Okay. First thing I'm going to say, disclaimer. The TV show I'm talking about had a whole bunch of demons in it, slayers, so on and so forth. This is not about the context of the TV show. This is about the revelation that was given within the context of the TV show. God will use the foolish things to confound the wise. We are spiritually mature people, okay? Follow me. Okay? Are we good? I think we are. Let's begin. Ruth. We all know the story of Ruth, but I'm going to tell it in a modern day take, okay? And as I tell it in a modern day take, I'm going to outline my point. Follow me. All right? Good. Let's walk. In the beginning of Ruth, first thing that happens is Ruth, who is a Moabite, marries into Naomi's family. Both of her sons take on wives. Then, not too long later, do both sons pass away subsequently right after their father does. Okay? How does this look in today? This looks like maybe you have a military spouse that went out into the war and he did not return. You have, because we have a whole lot of scenarios going on around that. This looks like our current panini. Paradoxical pandemonium that is going on in our atmosphere right now. That took out a whole lot of people in the past 2 years. And the CVD of it would have taken this woman's 2 children out, leaving the wife. The Lord gave me revelation that I could say this. And I'm going to preface this by saying this. The Lord has a God-ordained spouse for us all. When we are operating outside of the will of God and not going for the God-ordained spouse that the Lord has protected, aligned, and assigned us to go for, if we don't know the spiritual understanding of being in relationship with the right person, there is actual spiritual ramifications that can occur against the relationship you're in, not from God. God allots us the ability to make our own decisions. But because we are not in alignment with God's will, we can come into alignment with spiritual things such as spirit husbands and spirit wives. Go deeper, incubi and succubi. This is a demon that has a connection with a sexual lust link to I believe it's the incubi is the male, the succubi is the female. There was a whole nother episode on the alternate series that talked about the incubi and the succubi, what happens. Very deep. I have to pray about whether I'm going to go into that in this or go into another spiritual warfare episode, because this is not the context of this episode or this teaching. But if you want to do research on it, you can choose to. But my thing is this is a season, watch your eye gates, watch your ear gates. If you are seeking not to open yourself up to certain things, be cautious if you desire to look deeper into these realms, okay? Just be cautious. Because there's a rabbit hole there that you may not want to go into. That's my warning. Now, in being connected to these incubi, succubi, witch, warlock, marine spirit, spirit husband, spirit wife, you become contact in the spirit. This spirit husband and or spirit wife can actually be lineage-wise connected to your family line, meaning it's the same spirit that operates every generation that the person connects to, meaning the spirit in operation will connect to the person in which you are going to connect to, attract you to that person, and when you become attracted to this particular person, you become sexually involved with them and thereby create a spiritual soul tie and covenant with them in the spirit that you now have to break. If you don't know this same spirit will come from generation to generation and lure every woman into the same trap each and every time. I can speak on this because I come from 3 generations of abuse and battery. The blessing was the Lord removed me from direct attack, but it still almost got hold of me through the last person I dated. Okay? And it was the element of coming to the fullness of understanding that there has to be a level of wisdom. And when you come into wisdom and spiritual discernment to recognize each spirit in operation, if you are a female, understanding that you're dealing with an incubi spirit, marine spirit, and a spirit husband, all in one. As a male, you're dealing with a succubus, Jezebel spirit, and a spirit wife. Okay? Very controlling, so on and so forth. Now, this spirit will align itself with you, that it will try to prevent you from having any success in your relationships and or marriage by either one, making sure that you are in a relationship that is going to oppress, deter, destroy, or prevent you from being able to move forward. Two, it's going to just hold you in a place that will prevent you from reaching the fullness of your potential. As long as you ain't moving forward and remaining in that stagnant space, it will keep you going around in the same circles, thinking you're making progress, but you're not getting anywhere. As long as it can keep you there, then it feels as if it has succeeded. This might be a two-parter. We gonna roll with it. We gonna see how far we can get. Because I didn't know I was gonna go this deep into this part. But when that happens, there's such a thing as this spirit husband will try to prevent you from making any progress. There's a woman named Anointed Fire. She did a word on this. It talks about, is it spirit spouses? Spirit spouses or prodigals? I think it's spirit spouses that she talked about, where she talked about having experienced similar warfare in every relationship she had been in and couldn't understand where it was coming from until she sat down and spiritually dissected the things that were happening to her in certain seasons involving the relationships she had been in. When she broke the spiritual chain and became untied from it, that's when she came into realization. Why did I say this? When Ruth and Orpah's husbands died, they may not have actually been their ordained spouses. The spirit husband that they connected with from their original tribes, because remember, Ruth was a Moabite. She was not a Christian. She became that way once following Naomi. The spirit in her bloodline was what caused the husbands to be killed. Think I'm lying? Watch this. There was a case wasn't even several years ago, it was last year. A young woman was explaining in the midst of something I was involved with. Her daughter's husband had passed away. They had just gotten married. They were on their honeymoon. They had just come back from their honeymoon. They'd only been married for 2 weeks. Came home. He was in the military. And this guy didn't even die in active duty. He died because he crossed the street and I think something hit him. And somebody else explained there was a case where they were out on vacation recently after they had just gotten married. And a car tried to directly speed into them right after they got married. The reason I believe that Ruth and Orpah's husbands were both killed was because the Moabite connection to their original lineage and spiritual covenant, connective, what have you, was not broken. They just married into a Christian family. They did not come into alignment with it. They did not come into agreement with it. They did not break the spiritual pact with the spiritual generational curses that were connected to their backgrounds before they married their husbands. So their husbands just died because of the spirit spouse that was attached to the lineage of both women. That wasn't even supposed to be part of this word. I needed to preface that. But let's go deeper. Then, after their husbands died, what happened next was the mother made the decision, go back to your families, go back to your lineages, go back to your clans, go back to whatever your spiritual connection is to your families, go back. Orpah made the decision, okay, I'm going to go back to my family. I have nothing to keep me here. There's no reason for me to stay with you. Ruth made the decision, I'm going to stay. That's like a Christian woman making the decision that I've been with you. We were family. I've been connected to you. I've been walking with you. I've been going to church with you all this time, every week with you and your sons. We prayed into this. They passed away. Your husband passed away. We were there. We sat together at the funerals, all that kind of stuff. One says, this was too much for me. I got to go back to my own religion, whatever that religion was. The other says, I believe in your God. I'm going to follow you. What are we doing now? I'm going to stay in this church. If we're going to stay in this church, if we're going to stay in Christianity, teach me your will. Teach me what God showed you. Okay? Teach me. All Ruth and Naomi just went through, plain, simple, and to the point, was a level of wildernessism where they were stripped of what they thought they needed. They're her husbands, their sons, so on and so forth. Sometimes the Lord will allow such thing. Where do we learn this? In the book of Job. Touch everything around Job, but don't take his life. What happened in that story? Job lost his sons, his daughters, all of that, and his wife. But what happened at the end? He was restored. New sons, new daughters, new wife, new cattle, double for all of his trouble. When you start walking with the Lord, you will go through a stripping process. He'll strip you in levels. Sometimes he will strip you quickly. There are some people I notice that in this season, that there are women that I follow right now that are heavily anointed, that they've only been going through this for between 5 to 7 years. Some of them, the other woman I follow, she's been going through it about 11 years. I mean, she's been following God for about 11 years now. But some of them did. But see, what happened is they had God in their life. They just were not following him. They were the church girls that partied on Friday and Saturday and came to church on Sunday morning. So, yeah, they were out there doing the mostest the rest of the week and then trying to act like they were Christian on Sunday. They were out there doing and living their life, living their best life at which they thought, coming to church on Sunday morning. Okay? And some of them within the past 2 to 5 years, some 7 to 11 years, came into the understanding of God and knew that they had to walk with God. And they are fully sold out to Jesus right now. But they had to be broken in seasons. I have been sold out to Jesus for about 9 years now. And I had to be broken in seasons. What Naomi and Ruth went through was season 1 for Naomi was the loss of her husband. She had to go through that. Then back to behind that just like Job, she ends up losing her sons. All right? Then, after having lost her sons, she has to make a decision. Do I remain bitter or I do better? Her decision initially is I'm going to become bitter. I'm going to go back to my hometown. I'm going to leave it be. And this is going to be it. Okay? But because Ruth would not leave her, she maintained a sense of, I'm not going to go as bitter as I was. I'm going to remain at peace, and I'm going to teach this young woman how to follow God. Funny enough, recently I was watching the movie War Room. I had never seen this movie before. I watched it less than a week ago. And it was about an older woman teaching a younger woman who was still married how to walk through certain trials with her spouse, who at the moment in which she met her, the trials were beginning. In this case, the younger woman was helping the older woman walk through the trials. She was just having the tenacity to walk through them with her. God will send people into your life that will walk with you during certain levels of trials and wilderness. They may not stay with you the whole time, but they will walk with you. There was a woman during the season that I went through, a very dark season, that was my Naomi. And in me walking through that season, I experienced the transition that I needed to experience, and she walked with me the entire time. I pray that all is well with her right now. And it was a breaking in levels that Naomi went through. She loses her husband. She loses her sons. Then she decides to take the journey from wherever country they were in to her hometown. I believe it's Bethlehem, I think it was. But they had to take this long journey. The book makes it out like they drove there in 5 minutes. Think about where they were. Think about the fact that there were no cars in that season. Think about the fact that most places people had to go where they were going on foot. Think about the fact that it was hot. Think about all of these factors in. It took them a long time to reach that other city. When you are walking with the Lord and trusting in His will and His desire, God will take you through a journey that may take you days, weeks, months, even years to reach the other side of, to get to your destination. A lot of God's children and females have been walking in a season of pruning, prepping, wilderness, walking through some dry places, walking through some dark places. Sometimes it got so dark you were wondering, when was it ever going to get light again? Sometimes it started to rain and you didn't have no umbrella. Sometimes you had to sit up under a tree while it was raining. It was wet, it was cold, it was uncomfortable, and you were looking at God like, God, are we really out here doing this? Is this what we doing? This is what we doing, God. I mean, this is serious. We seriously out here? I am a female and I feel like I'm on military training ground. As that's exactly what you were in, military training, because God was teaching you how to pray. Because I remember when I was going through my dark wilderness season, couldn't see my way out, I always felt like God was saying boot camp. I always felt God was saying boot camp. I was like, boot camp? This is boot camp? This is boot camp. All right, I see you. I don't know whether I would rather have done the boot camp, but I don't know. At least I'd have been exercising. Jesus Christ. Because that season, that spiritual boot camp, right there, honey child. They had to get from one location to the other. It was not a quick little, no. In today's society, that would be like, perfect example. There's I think it was a woman who ran for breast cancer from was it from New York to California? But she ran cross country and took a week or 13 days to run across country to get from one side of the United States to the other. That's what that's like. Being out in the elements, being out and doing, yeah, that's what that's like. You didn't take the train there. You didn't take the motor bus there. You didn't take the plane, which would have gotten you there in a couple hours. You was on foot. You ran on foot. He's like, that wasn't working. So, I didn't catch my time. Yeah. And you had to deal with all the elements, the rain, the this, that, the other thing, all of these kinds of things while you were on foot. Then you finally reach the other side. You finally reach your Bethlehem. You finally reach your California from New York. You finally reach your whatever that destination was. And maybe you were doing a triathlon. Maybe you was in Canada. You had to run to the border of Canada. You had to run to a certain point of the border of Canada, take a bike ride, bike to the waterfront, and swim from Canada. All the way to the New York border, because there's a part of Canada that can be seen from New York. Swim, come across, then run that 2 weeks. A triathlon. Okay? So they finally reach their destination in their California, which is Bethlehem. Going through trials, going through tribulations, going through their boot camp. This was nowhere near the direction, but I said I was going to flow. So this is where God had us flow. We're going to do this part, and then we're going to finish on the next part, because I got about 5 minutes left, if that long. 4. But, so what happened is you finally reach your destination. You're exhausted. You rest. You get to your location. You get to the house. You get to wherever you're going to rest once you get there. For when you reach your promised land, when you reach where God's trying to take you, you will go through a resting period. A lot of the women in this season that are preparing for their marriage, they were either taken out of their parents' home and they were put into a hotel. They were taken out of a certain situation. They were put in a temporary location, and then they got married. Sometimes I wonder if that's what's going to happen to me. I don't know. And then what happens? The gleaning in the field. Ruth made the decision to go glean in the field. Ruth needed to go out, and she needed to step into her purpose. What does this look like? This looks like you are talented in something. You have a gifting in something. God is telling you you are called to this area. You're called to this arena. You're called to do this thing. and the potential for opportunity arises to you. So you go out and seek to go to that location to see if this may be your field. Some may have gotten a rejection. One of the women that I listened to, she was talking about having gotten rejected recently in a position in which she had sought out to get into. She went, she was dealing with certain spiritual warfare in relation to it, and then she said, I'm going to do it myself. I ain't even going to go that route. What does that look like? Ruth going into the field and picking up the wheat, the barley, what have you, from the edges of the field herself. What's that look like? Pick your whatever direction in which you are going in your business. What are you called to? What arena are you called to? Has the Lord showed you what arena that you're called to? Sit down, take a notebook, take a piece of paper, write down all the things that you are talented in. I have a course that teaches this. If interested, please reach out. Type something in the comments. And what ends up happening is you find your field of favor. This is your field of favor. You know what you're called to. God has shown me. I know what field I'm called to. This is the one field that seems like the most arduously far away from me that I could ever do, because I don't know how to do it correctly. But God has given me the pieces for my field. So all I'm doing is, just as Ruth did, I'm piecing the pieces together from the edge of the field. I'm picking up scraps from the edge of the field wherever I can pick them up at, gaining whatever little knowledge I can in this area of the business that I'm called to, that area of the business that I'm called to, the other area of the business that I'm called to, and I'm stepping into it. And with that being said, I am seeking out God's wisdom as to how I'm supposed to pick up from the edges of this field, whatever the field is that I am particularly called to. Now, we're going to pause because I'm going to go into part 2 of this part. And I'm going to speak a little further on this concept. So in the next one, bye-bye.